Hello everyone, David and Karen of Film Courage here on the line with blogger and author Brianna Karp. Brianna's book, The Girl's Guide to Homelessness.
Got it here.
Yep.
We have it here.
What a coincidence, so do I.
Was released in April of this year, and her website, girlsguidetohomelessness.com, accompanies the book. Welcome, Brianna. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I also want to thank you for joining us, Brianna. We discovered your story, I think it was just last week, on the front page of Yahoo.
Yeah.
It really caught Karen's attention, and there was just sort of some connection there, and she really wanted the opportunity to speak with you. So we're just thrilled that you'd be able to join us here today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brianna. And we want to inform our listeners of the story leading up to the book so that they have an idea of, what you've been through and what you've accomplished. So please stop me if I'm incorrect here, but I believe in 2008 you were 23 and you had this great job as an executive assistant, a job that you absolutely loved and took pride in. You're making a great salary, $50,000 a year. You had this cute place in Orange County, a great dog, and things are going well. And then the Great Recession hits. You're laid off. And you're given a severance package and you're eligible for unemployment benefits. But things just weren't continuing well. You picked up some temp work, and unfortunately you had to give up your place and move in with your family. And that situation, unfortunately, wasn't the best. It was an abusive home situation, and you eventually moved. At the same time, I believe you inherited your deceased father's trailer, 30-foot travel trailer, and you were forced to move into it and live in a Walmart parking lot. Walmart at the time was willing to let certain trailers be there, I understand. And
yes, well, they've had a policy of that for quite a while. Because I guess Sam Walton, who owned Walmart, was the big camper. So they had a policy of letting people who were traveling through, and vacationing to stay in their parking lot. And I spoke to the general manager and asked if there was kind of a time limit on that policy. And I was like, well, what if I don't know quite how long I'm going to be staying? And she was like, you know what, we're seeing a lot more people with the recession, who've been here for a long period of time and for several months, and we kind of just look the other way. So she's like, just kind of lay low, stay in the corner with the other campers, and you should be fine.
Right, okay. So you're there, you still have your dog, you're using your laptop and your phone, and you're able to use the Wi-Fi at Starbucks, and you're very resourceful. You're able to use, I believe, a gas station bathroom, and you keep yourself going, despite an extremely painful situation that would really crush most people. And in doing so, you turn this experience into the book, The Girl's Guide to Homelessness.
Right, and I met a lot of other homeless people living the way I was, and I think that was probably the scariest thing about it, was that my story wasn't, I was finding my story wasn't really exceptional. It's fast becoming very, very common, and the mobile homeless living out of campers and vehicles are the largest growing subset of the homeless population. And so I have been raised to think of homeless people, I think, as most people, do, those knee-jerk stereotypes, and, to think they were all dirty or lazy or that way because they deserve to be, or because they, were all mentally ill or drug addicted. And I just found some really nice people, that was most of the people that I found. They were just great people who had a run of hard luck and were trying to get back on their feet and blend in and just, get life back on track.
Brianna, there's a lot of truth, a lot of honesty, and a good amount of pain in this book. I can only imagine, what it's like for you to put this story, your story into words. Can you talk a little bit about, going to where you had to go to put your story on paper?
Oh, sure. It was really scary for me. I didn't think of myself as an author, and I had been anonymous, and I was blogging anonymously. I had the Growth Guide to Homelessness, the website, which is kind of how this all came about. But it was important to me to stay anonymous because, there was the shame factor, obviously the stigma to it. I didn't want my family to know, and, I was kind of hoping not to burn, all bridges if possible. And I didn't think of myself as a real writer, and I didn't think I had the kind of talent to go there. And, as you said, there are some really, dark places that I had to go, and there's some great stuff in there. So that took a lot of coaxing and kind of a lot of mental gearing up. And but I am glad I did it because I've had a lot of people write me and say that they've been touched by it, and not just people who are homeless and formerly homeless, but people who grew up in abusive households or have been victimized by domestic violence that have connected with it. So that's really cool to me to know that I've maybe affected even a handful of people's lives or just given them something to connect to, which is really cool. But yeah, the book itself was it was definitely it was a labor of love, and there's a lot of exercising demons in there and stuff, and personal pain, but it was cathartic, and I ended up being really glad that I did it.
Well, I think in the initial stages of your moving into the camper, was it your friend Brandon that suggested that you start writing about it?
He did. We were talking about it, and he, I think, like me, was thinking that it would be a pretty temporary situation, and that I get myself out of it pretty quick. I don't think anyone predicted quite how long the recession would drag on. But he was like, "Oh, you should blog about being homeless. That's what all the kids are doing these days, right? Is blogging." And I was like, "Oh, that's cute. Haha, very funny." So I did it, like, I did one blog post kind of as a joke, and then it felt really good, and it felt really cathartic, so I kept doing it. It was more for me than for anything else, and I didn't expect people to keep reading, but, kind of slowly, and then, more snowballing, had garnered a following, I guess, and it was interesting to me to think that anybody would care what I wanted to say or read it, much less come back to keep hearing it. So, that was kind of exciting. And kind of an eye opener for me, just how many people could connect with my personal story. So, and how many people are going through similar stuff right now.
Yeah, what I think is so amazing is, you're in your early 20s and you're able to write about this so beautifully. So many people who come from dysfunctional environments, they don't realize that this is not the norm. And I just think that's amazing that you were able to just articulate all that was happening to you and show people and help them. Because like I said, so many people, they're kind of sworn to secrecy with so much that goes on in abusive households, and that you were able to be so free and honest with it. That's really commendable.
Yeah, that was really difficult, and it's kind of been a learning experience for me in that, I left an abusive household, and, I was raised in a very insular, kind of high control, like doomsday type cult group. So, like you said, you don't know what's normal and not. I didn't have, in some ways it helped, it was a two-edged sword. Like, growing up that way, it imbued me with a lot of determination and a high work ethic because I started working so early to support my family. And on the other hand, I went out, moved out at 18, and I had to kind of learn normal human interactions and boundaries from scratch. So I think a lot of the book is like a coming of age story, because most people learn this stuff when they're young, and I didn't really have any of that childhood, normal childhood teen experiences. So I had to do it later, and I think that a lot of people can connect with the coming of age part of it.
Absolutely.
Wow. I don't know why I'm going to bring this up, Brianna, but when I was 14, I was skateboarding, and I went up this ramp, and I kind of, when I was skidding across the top of the ramp, I kind of lost my balance and I fell down, and I busted up my arm pretty bad. I broke it in two places, here and here, and my wrist popped out. And I remember sort of grabbing my wrist, and I couldn't understand, like, why would this happen to me, and I asked myself, like, why, I was like 2 weeks away from starting high school, and here I am just completely doing this to myself, and it was just that travesty, and some of the things that you've gone through and you've experienced. I mean, have you looked at yourself and say, why me? Why have I gone through this?
Definitely, and I think that's everybody. Obviously, there are people who have had it much worse off than me, who didn't have, a trailer to live in, or they're, sitting on a park bench. So, you try to keep everything in perspective. But yeah, there are definitely moments where you're like, what else could possibly go wrong? And then something else does, and you're like, why me? And I think it's times like those, like, where I'd really like to believe in a concept like karma or something, because that seems like, that seems like positive. Good things come back to good people, and bad things come back to bad people. But you see really senseless bad things happen for no reason to people who are essentially very good people, and you start to wonder, about that, like how true could it really be? So, as much as I want to believe in a concept like that, yeah, you look around and you just say why. Often there's just no sense to it. On the other hand, like some really good things have come out of a really crummy situation, for me, and I've, met some amazing friends, on the journey, and kind of that whole family you choose thing. So, you look back later and go, okay, maybe something positive did grow out of it. And, I did find a passion in helping people, and I've co-founded World Homeless Day, which launched last year and had participation in over 100 countries. And so I look back and go, okay, maybe, that something like that was, that's the positive that I can take out of it. Something bad happened to me, but I tried to turn it to as good use as possible. And I kind of found a passion in helping people, which I don't think I would ever have found if, I just kind of continued on normal middle class, suburbia life.
And where do you think that inner strength comes from to be able to take, all the bad you've had to face and then somehow spin that around? Not a lot of people have that ability. Where does that come from?
I think most people do have that ability innately. I think you just don't know how strong you are until you get put in a situation like that. I definitely didn't think, if you asked me, if I had been able to, be homeless and like turn it into a book, so I would have been like, no, you're crazy. Like I saw none of this coming, and so I think that it, are you okay with the video? I think it might have gone.
Yeah.
But I just, obviously I was lucky in some ways, more than most. And so I try to turn that to good use. But I think most people have that innately, that inner strength. And I think some of it also comes from, growing up in an abusive childhood. And, you kind of, you start with the odds stacked against you in a lot of ways. And that, maybe inadvertently, views you with determination and drive. Like I was very driven to get out of there and kind of go on and make my own life. And I think maybe that quality came in handy when I became homeless.
Well, you wrote about, you're still in the trailer, and you said, if I can keep my mind and my body intact, I can make it out of this. And
yeah, that's your most important resource. I mean, you can lose everything in the world, but you've still got yourself, and so you try to use whatever you have for the best possible maximum effect.
so was that determination that you spoke of, having grown up where the odds were stacked against you, and you sort of had that built-in determination, sort of the pushing the elephant up the hill, so to speak. Is that what kept you from just spiraling into a total depression?
Yeah, I mean, and there were, I'm not gonna lie, there were definitely very depressing moments. Like there were times where you just want to curl up and cry, or you're just like, and you have to kind of take that on the chin, and it would come in waves, and then you let it pass, and then, I mean, what's your other option? You can't sit there feeling sorry for yourself forever. Obviously, you've got to just keep moving. So, but no, you definitely go through depressed moments. I mean, that's part of becoming homelessness. You've lost all autonomy, and you can feel invisible at times, and like there's a lot of pedaling, really furiously just to stay in place. But yeah, it's kind of the thing where if you don't stop moving, you die, like a shark or something. So yeah, just yeah, you do get depressed, but then you kind of pick up and say, okay, what do I do next? And you don't wallow in it.
Brianna, just to maybe give anyone who might come across this video, just to give them some further perspective, would you mind sharing, a little bit of the darkest day, or one of your darker days, kind of what you were dealing with, more specifically?
Probably the scariest part for me was the first night, because it was that, like, I'd never been homeless before, and it was that accepting of the label and the stigma. And then another probably my lowest point was I had met another homeless activist, and we collaborated and we fell in love, and that ended up tanking rather badly. We were together for nearly a year. We were supposed to get married in 3 months, and it ended up, kind of with, he ran off with another woman, and I, ended up abandoned. And like, rough sleeping in the snow for a couple nights. So that was, probably my lowest moments. And it was sort of the, someone that I had grown to really love and trust, betrayed me really badly. And so that was kind of on top of the homelessness thing. That was probably the hardest thing I had to go through.
Now, I just want to switch gears just a little bit to a happier point in that your writing is absolutely poetic. It's beautiful. And
Thank you.
yeah, I mean, you take these memories that some of them are just horrific and no one should have to experience them, but you take the reader right there and you paint these very vivid pictures. Were you trained to write? How did you develop this ability?
No, I mean, like, I like to write, when I was a little kid, I liked to write poetry, and I was like, I'm going to write a book one day. But like I said, I was raised in kind of a doomsday cult, and anything, artistic is looked on as like self-meaning in vain. And so my family was like, oh, that's very cute, but you're not going to write a book. Like, God wouldn't like that. So, I kind of had that, stripped of me at an early age. And so, I was the weird kid in high school who walked around with a notebook a lot, wrote like journal entries. But I, had given up on any dream of writing a book, and I've never, been trained or anything. So it's really weird to hear people say that they connected with it, that they thought it was poetic, because I personally read my writing and I'm like, oh God, I think that's terrible, and I think I'm a terrible writer. So I'm probably the harshest on myself. But thank you very much. That means a lot to me.
Absolutely. And now things are totally different. Do you ever get flooded with memories that are painful? And if so, how do you deal with them and how do you pick yourself up?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm still dealing with some of it. I'm not out of the woods yet, and I hear, every day from people who are, homeless and still, and so that can, that's difficult, and you want to help people, and so it's important to me to keep on doing that. Obviously, now I have a 9 to 5 job, which is really cool, and finally found it after almost 2 years of looking. So I do that. That pays the bills, and then you know, all the rest of the time I have is promoting the book and getting the word out there on homelessness, and running World Homeless Day, which is a full-time job in it of itself, and so it's it keeps you on your toes, and you don't have a lot of time to get depressed. But yeah, you have sad moments whenever there's downtime, and remembering what you went through. But like, look at what I've gained out of it. Look at the people that I've met, and the connections that I've met, and I found my family and my passion through this. So it's hard to regret it, despite the worst, the harder things that have happened, just because so much good has come out of it. And that's all you can do really, is that whole keep trying to spin lemons in the lemonade.
Brianna, speaking of the brighter side, I mean, can you, what has been the most, moving part of this experience? Is there a specific moment with someone, a stranger, a fan, just a moment where you could really see sort of the spiritual side of why this has all happened to you?
I like the best moments for me are when someone will write in and say, I thought the same way, about homelessness, and you changed the way I thought about it. Like, so when someone said, I know how hard it is to change someone's, perceptions, and stereotypes, because, it's hard for me to change my own. So, something like that really moved me. Or when, I've gotten letters from someone who's like, from a few people who are like, I'm 16 years old and I was raised in an abusive family, or I have a bipolar mother, or I was sexually abused as a child, and like, thank you, you gave me something to connect to. And that to me is, like, that makes my day. That's what it's all about. Everything else is just gravy, because, I feel like, I've touched one person's life personally. I mean, that, you can't put a value on that. And that's probably the most moving thing for me. That's what makes it all. And the rest of this is lots of fun. Getting to, like, oh hey, I'm in San Francisco, and I'm getting to talk about it and stuff. But like, yeah, it's the personal connections with readers that really makes it for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, as we mentioned earlier, your story was on the cover or on the front page of Yahoo just recently.
Yeah.
You've also been interviewed on the Today Show, CNN, and numerous radio and online publications. How was that, sort of being thrust into the limelight after being, sort of hidden in this camper, and then all of a sudden your story is known and everybody wants to talk to you?
Yeah, they was scary because I was very keen on remaining anonymous at the beginning because, for, like safety reasons, obviously, if you're a woman and you feel very vulnerable, being homeless, like extra vulnerable. And you read stories about like homeless people being set on fire and stuff. So I really didn't want people to, be able to connect my name and location to it. So yeah, there was that, and it's just it's very overwhelming. I'm getting slightly better at it, but it's still very, and it comes in waves. Like there will be an article done, and all of a sudden there will be a lot of attention, and people want to talk to me, and the email fills up, the inbox fills up with emails, to answer, and I'm like, oh God, overwhelmed, and there are moments where you're like, oh God, is my brain going to short circuit? And then, it'll die down a little, and you try to get back to everybody, and just keep plugging on. So it's exciting. I call it kind of like quasi Z-list internet fame. I'm not. Luckily, I don't. I don't get recognized walking down the street, which is good. I think that would be kind of scary, but it's good. It is a good feeling to kind of know that your opinion's being taken seriously, because I never felt like I had a voice or an opinion before this. As I think a lot of people who are raised in abusive situations feel that way, and so it's kind of an odd feeling that people are listening to you, or think that what you have to say has any value, or like people are like, oh, you're an expert on homelessness, and I'm like, wait, what? No. I'm still getting used to that whole thing of what I have to say, and the experience that I've had matter. So it's exciting, kind of scary.
And on the media side of that, I mean, how did you end up on the front page of Yahoo? Do you have any involvement with making that happen? Same thing with the Today Show. I mean, is that you doing that? How does that happen?
No, the Today Show happened when my fiance at the time, he was big in social media, and so he had written a story about it, and I think it got picked up on Dig, and so it became like a really big story, and it made the front page Dig, and so that kind of tends to attract media outlets. So that was, I think, how the whole thing kind of started. But the Today Show and stuff, like they call them their own, and then now with the book, I'm sure that the publisher, they do some outreach, I'm sure, there too, but I don't have a ton of knowledge about social media or how it all works. And then the Yahoo thing was a reporter that had done an interview with me last year, and he was kind of doing a follow-up. So that was in U.S. News and World Report, and then I think Yahoo just kind of picked up on it. And I haven't read it. I try not to read the comment section, but I've heard it gets quite passionate over there, and there's some debate. So I try to stay away from comment sections because, people make a lot of knee-jerk assumptions, and and they can say painful things. And so I've learned that it's kind of good to stay away from that side and just try to focus on the positive and keep on doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, it sounds like definitely a safer place to be, is sort of avoid where those comments can go. But is there anything you can share, in regards to and dealing with the media, pitching your story to the media? Is there anything you can share along those lines that you've learned?
Yeah, I'm kind of picking it up as I go. Obviously, I think headlines are everything. Is what I'm learning, and something with a catchy attention grabber will get people's attention. Homelessness is a hot button word right now, so I'm sure that's kind of helped in the media attention getting department. Anything recession driven. And yeah, you try to. I mean, I learned, like, I had to put together a marketing proposal for the book when the book was first being shopped around, and you pick up stuff like how to phrase things, and you just say, well, who you want to be able to put out there. And now I'm working in marketing, which I've never done before, so I'm learning a lot. It's like you want to find out who's your audience and who's going to read this and why, and that's what I guess the media or anyone else wants to know when something's being shopped around to them, is why will this appeal to people, who's going to read it, who's my demographic, and what are similar stories that have done well or grabbed attention that this could be compared to.
And going back to when you began blogging, how were you initially approached about the book? How did it come about?
Oh, I was approached once or twice in the very beginning by a couple literary agents, and I had turned it down because I was like, oh God, no, are you crazy? um, I didn't, I didn't want my name and face out there, and I didn't think I could write a book. And so when I finally started meeting with people, it was after my name and face were already out there. It was when Today's Show on CNN happened, and all of a sudden there were numerous literary agents wanting to talk to me. So I was in New York for Today's Show, and I met with a couple of them. And there was one I really connected with. And so I was lucky. I think most writers have to go out there and submit and to agent after agent and accept a lot of rejection. And I was really lucky when I had them coming up to me. So I feel bad about that. I'm like, I'm sorry, writers out there. I totally, I feel bad, kind of like I didn't pay my dues, but I was just really lucky. And then once you get an agent, they, you kind of held my hand and walked me through the process because I knew and still know very little about the literary side of things. And I asked, my publishers and my agent dumb questions every day that, more seasoned people probably actually know the answer to. So I'm just kind of navigating it as I go. But yeah, I'm telling you, agent's the way to go. They'll walk you through it.
So, I mean, you have your blog, and forgive me, I don't know how much material you had on your blog, and exciting. You have someone come to you and say, look, we want you to write a book. We want to publish it, but at the same time, you're going to have to fill in that gap. I mean, this is a thick book here. It's not a small book, so you're going to have to write the rest of these pages. What was it like?
And most of what's in the book isn't on the blog. I didn't want to just put it in a bunch of blog posts and rehash it. Which I had, good, year and a half probably worth of material on the blog that, might have added up to almost that much, but I didn't want to I felt like that would be cheating. Here's something that you can get for free online, but I'm just going to bind it together and call it a book. So, it was really important to me to go more in depth and, share my backstory and, things that weren't already on the blog. So that was, kind of a daunting prospect. But again, I'm really glad I did it, and it was cathartic.
And, I mean, did it come easy, or was it frustrating putting in a year and a half worth of work on the book?
There was, there were moments where it was frustrating, or it seemed like a big challenge. I think once I actually jumped in and got started, then it kind of seemed to flow more naturally than I thought it would, because I was like, okay, I'm just writing what I know. I'm writing my life, and that's already happened to me. So. But it was the whole getting started, just sitting down and going, where do I start and how? And there were times where I would just set it aside and I can't do it for a month or two, and I would just be like, I can't write anything, and then all of a sudden I would sit down and then I would spend 10 days working all night writing and going, oh, okay. So it just kind of came in spurts. But yeah, it seemed a lot more daunting than it was. I think part of the challenge was me setting up a nice big mental block about it, and I'd like to think if I ever wrote a second book that now that I've done it once, I know I can do it, so it would be much less terrifying.
So now you're working this full-time job, you're probably commuting, you have life to deal with. How are you building your audience? How much time are you spending on it with Facebook and Twitter? And how do you prioritize your time with these emails? I'm sure some days it's just overwhelming.
It is, especially with the Yahoo article. I've still got a few hundred emails and tweets that I need to get back to, and so I'm doing them. I wish I feel like I should be spending more time on Twitter and Facebook and stuff, because that's social media is the way of the future. That's the way to reach people, and so but I've also got the 9-to-5 job going, so it's been kind of tricky working the schedule around getting everything covered, and I'm also doing the book tour, so that's just kind of another thing. I'm trying to coordinate 3 or 4 schedules. But yeah, Facebook, social media, Twitter, and those are just the 2 big ones. There's dozens of social media sites. It really is the way of the future. You hear that people saying, oh, the news is dead or newspapers are dead, and I don't think that's quite true. I think they're going to evolve. Or they are evolving as time goes, but social media now is right on the scene. It gets broken even before the news breaks it. So I think that the way we view the world and news is changing with that, and I'm also getting on the social media wagon.
And switching gears slightly, Brianna, have you seen any small independent films this year?
Ooh, small independent films. Oh gosh. See, yeah, I was like, I actually have because I love indie films, but now I'm trying to remember which ones. Okay, let's see. Do they have to have come out this year, or can they have come out at any time?
Anytime, yeah.
Just wanna.
Okay, sometimes I watch old ones that I'd never heard of. I really love a Japanese one called Swing Girls, about this little, this group of like Japanese like truant misfits who end up putting together like a brass band, and it's really adorable. And let's see, what else? What else have I seen? Because I love the indie. Do you guys do indie films? Is that your
Yeah, we deal with
thing?
a good number of independent filmmakers. Yeah, and just so here and there we like to just throw it out to our guests, and
Mhm.
just kind of get a sense of what films are on their radar and maybe should be on our radar.
Yeah, I really want to see the one that's come out called Beginners with Ewan McGregor and Christopher Plummer. That's supposed to be really good. So looking forward to that one. But yeah, I really love indie films, and I watch a lot of like stuff like overseas BBC miniseries and stuff because I've like stuff from like 1982. I'm like the Barchester Chronicles. I've never heard of that, but it sounds like it would be interesting. So I'm really into stuff like that and older stuff. I used to work at Blockbuster Video, and so like nights and weekends. So that was my thing. Everyone would come in wanting to know about the newest big release, and I was like, oh, but what about this movie from from 10 years ago? You'll love it. So
Wow.
and stuff like.
Yeah, Karen was just telling me this morning how often she would go to Blockbuster and
Yeah.
always be looking for sort of the obscure independent film. We were literally just talking about that this
Yeah, we
morning.
were. That's really funny.
Yeah, and they try to steer you towards the stuff on the outside wall, the new releases, and you're like, no, I'm trying to find, something from Italy in 1997. So, but yeah.
And I know it may be premature. Are there any ideas to turn this into a film?
It's not premature actually. I guess they've been working on it since before the book was even written. Like there were people asking me about the film stuff, so that's kind of exciting. So it's kind of an ongoing thing. I get the feeling it's a process that takes years and years and may not ever pan out, and might get shelved. So I'm trying to get my hopes up, but there are screenwriters working on an adaptation right now of it, and they've got people they're interested in approaching. So it's really exciting. And I'm sort of removed from the process, and I just met the screenwriters while I was in New York like 2 weeks ago for the first time, so that was really cool. But it's a very surreal thing, like when someone talks about putting your story to film. And again, I don't know if it'll ever actually happen, but it's kind of a really weird, odd feeling.
And where can people purchase the book?
It's available at Borders, Barnes and Noble, Indigo Chapters, your local indie bookstore, Amazon.com, Walmart and Target, I think, have it now. So yeah, it's pretty out there. I'm really excited. It's kind of weird to walk into a bookstore and see my book there and be like, oh god.
That's really cool.
But yeah, so pretty much wherever good books are sold. Yeah.
Nice.
Well, Brianna, we want to just thank you for taking time out of your day.
Yeah,
wait,
thank
wait.
you. I just have
I'm
one
sorry.
more question, Brianna, as we wrap up. I'm just wondering, you're around 24, 25 right now, is that right?
I'm 26 now. I just turned 26.
Okay. So if you meet other 26-year-olds and maybe their life consists of, worrying about the latest text from their friends or different things, and you know that you've dealt with things that most people in their lifetime will never experience, how are you able to turn that into saying, well, maybe this was just, I was put on this earth for lessons of survival, or trying to take the high road with it instead of maybe harboring some type of feelings of resentment? How are you able to transcend that?
Yeah, well, I mean, you can't really resent, that. If anything, I'm happy that most people haven't had to go, through stuff like that, 'cause who would want to? I think, and there's a way to reach people without being preachy. I try not to be preachy because people don't like being preached to, but they do like, hearing good stories. And so I just try to be really conversational about it, I don't, like when I'm at work, I don't talk a lot about my book or my work. And, some people found out about it and they ask about it. And then, that's a chance to kind of share with people and maybe change perceptions. But if you're just, you stay down to earth and stay conversational, and, people like that, and they like the approachable route, and then, good things happen for you.
Well, I mean, Brianna, this is a very powerful book,
Yes, it
you
is.
know, and it's inspiring when you have a chance to connect with someone who's been able to endure and move on and find the positive and bright side of life. So we want to thank you for joining us, blogger, author,
Okay.
Brianna Karp, The Girl's Guide to Homelessness. You can find out more about Brianna at a girl's guide to homelessness.com. You can find
Just girlsguidetohomelessness.com, no A.
I'm sorry. Girl's Guide to Homelessness, forgive me. You can
Okay.
find her at Twitter by just using the first letter TGGTH. So that's your Twitter handle. And Facebook, the Girl's Guide to Homelessness as well on Facebook.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure.
No, thank
I
you.
really
Brianna.
appreciate you guys taking the time to do the interview.
Oh, and we just want to wish you the very best. And you just have such an amazing story, and I just feel that so many people can benefit from hearing about it, and even people that have never lived in an abusive situation or been homeless, but just sort of that lesson of being able to stand up and overcome. And I just really think it's important, and thank you for sharing it.
Thank you so much. That's very kind of you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Brianna.
you. Thank you.
You guys have a great day.
Okay, you too.